Back on March 21st, President Trump unveiled plans for America's next-generation stealth fighter, the Boeing F-47. Since then, however, only bits and pieces have been seen, shrouded in secrecy. Now, though, more details are coming to light. So let's take a closer look at what has already been declassified and consider what the future of military warfare might look like. The Next Generation Air Dominance (NGAD) initiative formally took shape in the 2010s as a family of systems approach to replace the aging F-22 Raptor fleet. Initially dubbed Penetrating Counter-Air (PCA), the concept envisioned a crude sixth-generation fighter as the central node of a broad network of assets. In 2014, DARPA launched the Aerospace Innovation Initiative, which funded multiple X-plane prototypes to demonstrate next-gen fighter technologies. These experimental X-planes, built in secret by various contractors, began flying by 2019, testing advanced designs and systems needed for a sixth-gen platform. The goal was to mature critical tech early and reduce risk. For example, Boeing reportedly flew a demonstrator in 2019 as part of this effort. After years of classified development, the NGAD program emerged into public view on March 21, 2025. In a White House announcement, President Donald J. Trump revealed the Air Force's new fighter would be designated the F-47, making it the first sixth-generation fighter in the U.S. arsenal. The number 47 carries symbolic meaning. It honors the legacy of the World War II-era P-47 Thunderbolt and nods to 1947 as the Air Force's founding year, while also recognizing the support of the 47th President, Trump, in launching the program. The president touted the jet as something the likes of which nobody has ever seen before, boasting that in terms of speed, maneuverability, and payload, there's never been anything even close to it. He quipped that America's enemies will never see it coming, referring to the F-47's extreme stealth. The contract award to Boeing and the F-47's official christening marked a major milestone for NGAD. Air Force Chief of Staff General David Alvin hailed the jet as the most advanced, lethal, and adaptable fighter ever developed, stressing that we are not just building another fighter, we are shaping the future of warfare. Thanks to the extensive preliminary work, including the flying demonstrators, the F-47 program already has unprecedented maturity, according to General Alvin. He noted that covert X-plane trials allowed the team to push the envelope of technology with confidence, giving a head start in the EMD phase. As a result, the Air Force projects the first flight of a full-up F-47 will occur by the late 2020s, specifically by the end of President Trump's term in early 2029. Initial operational capability could follow soon after. In fact, Air Force graphics have hinted the F-47 will be operational in 2025 to 2029, though this window likely refers to flight testing and not full service entry. The Air Force expects to spend roughly $20 billion on NGAD through fiscal year 2029 on development and testing. In terms of production and fleet size, Air Force leaders have indicated they plan to buy 185-plus F-47s. This quantity would meet or exceed the original F-22 procurement 187 Raptors built, and reflects the Air Force's intent to field more sixth-gen fighters than the current F-22 fleet. However, the unit cost of the F-47 remains a sensitive topic. The administration declined to disclose a precise price per jet, citing classification of the jet's technology and size, but did acknowledge previous estimates around $300 million each. The Air Force expects to spend roughly $20 billion on NGAD through FY 2029 on development and testing. After that, per-jet costs and production rates will depend on how efficiently Boeing can build the aircraft and whether any design changes are needed. The contract does include options for low-rate initial production to begin procuring F-47s as testing wraps up. Senior leaders have emphasized they will acquire the NGAD jet in larger numbers than its predecessor, the F-22, and in a more affordable manner, thanks to improved processes and competition in subsystems. But aside from renders that we now know were intentionally misleading about the aircraft's design, the Air Force has been rather tight-lipped about what we can expect from this new platform. However, in May, the image became just a little bit clearer when General David Alvin took to X to share a graphic breaking down 3 generations of air combat platforms that will serve together once the F-47 starts rolling out of production. Although very generalized in nature, the graphic provides us with our first official metrics for some of these aircraft, including stating Boeing's next-generation air dominance fighter will possess a combat radius of 1,000+ nautical miles. The 1,000+ nautical mile figure lines up loosely with the Navy's own NGAD fighter initiative, or FAXX, which was recently stated as having roughly 25% more range than the service's current fighters. Of the Navy's current tactical jet fleets, the F-35C offers better range than the F/A-18EF Super Hornet. A 25% increase over F-35C would put FAXX's combat radius at roughly 850 nautical miles or so. The closer to 50% additional range over existing fighters for the F-47 would make some sense if the basic performance goals were broadly similar to the Navy's, but one had to operate from a carrier, and the other had the advantage of flying from fixed airfields. The graphic also puts the F-47's speed at over Mach 2, which aligns with President Donald Trump's comments during the program contract award announcement and naming presser. Exactly how fast it will be able to cruise without afterburner and at what level of efficiency is far more important than its top speed, regardless. The F-47 will feature Stealth++, as opposed to the F-22's Stealth Plus and the F-35's Stealth, according to the graphic. This really isn't a new revelation, as the NGAD manned tactical jet was always envisioned as being a very low observable aircraft, likely featuring all-aspect broadband, all-aspect stealth against radar, and significantly reduced infrared signature. The inclusion of canards in the design, at least in the concept art we have been shown, seems somewhat antithetical to this goal, but we don't know what has been included for counterintelligence purposes, and we should always keep in mind that the actual aircraft may end up looking notably different, maybe even ending up without the canards. Finally, the USAF graphic states the F-47 would become operational between 2025 and 2029. This is very unlikely, and this date range is probably meant to indicate the first flight of the F-47 and some of its developmental testing. We see the same date range for YQF-42A and YQF-44 ACCAs. The F-47 will fly during this administration, a USAF official told the War Zone when asked for further clarification. Move on to the aforementioned CCAs. The graphic shows program procurement as over 1,000 units. As we understand it, that would not necessarily be QF-42As or QF-44s, but across multiple CCA increments, with one or both of those aircraft being procured in numbers between 100 and 150 units for the first CCA increment. Increment 2, which will likely be a very different airframe, is spinning up to be competed next. Still, the USAF could end up buying many more Increment 1 CCAs, beyond the 100-150 number, as the overall program evolves. The 700-mile combat radius for the wingman is very important to note. We have not seen a range figure like this assigned to CCA before. Like the F-47's stated range, this is on the lower side of what some may think is necessary. This would be especially so as it does not align directly with what we now know about the F-47's own range, as the fighter will be one of the primary control platforms for CCAs. As for speed, both the YQF-42A and YQF-44A are widely believed to be generally subsonic by design. Andurril's YQF-44A was adapted from Blue Force Technologies' Fury aggressor drone. That design was claimed to be capable of supersonic flight for limited maneuvers, but it is possible that more sustained supersonic operation could be acquired with propulsion changes. It isn't clear if such an enhancement was pursued in the final CCA design. Finally, the graphic notes stealth as an attribute for both types. Both aircraft have some low observable, stealthy features to varying degrees, especially optimized from the critical forward aspects. But they are not very low observable platforms. Still, some degree of stealth technology balanced against cost and performance will provide a degree of enhanced survivability. CCA requirements could, and probably will, change drastically in future iterations. It is worth noting that America's rivals are not standing idle. In late 2024, Chinese media claimed that China had conducted test flights of its own notional sixth-generation fighter, sometimes referred to as a J-36 by analysts. U.S. Air Force leaders openly scoffed at Beijing's claims, with General Alvin asserting that the F-47 is truly the world's first crewed sixth-gen fighter and that U.S. technology is a generational leap ahead. Nevertheless, the race for sixth-gen capabilities is clearly underway globally. This adds urgency to the F-47 timeline. Pentagon officials have even floated the idea of developing an uncrewed version of NGAD in the future, essentially an autonomous sixth-gen fighter, once AI technology matures to a sufficient level. For now, though, the priority is to get the F-47, the manned centerpiece of NGAD, into the hands of Air Force squadrons by the early 2030s. And what do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel to always stay in touch. And thanks for watching.